everyone? Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I'm excited to be back with another client interview for you guys today. Today we have Bruce on with us, and I'm really excited to talk to Bruce because he just finished going through, I guess we call it a lateral process, because he was already graduated from college when he came to us, and he wanted to lateral into the intention was investment banking. And so he's not your typical candidate who's still recruiting out of college, but nonetheless, I think it took him 3 weeks, I think is what you said.
Yep, 3 weeks.
The process. And I think I told him that, hey, I don't remember what I told you. I think I told you it was going to take like maybe 6 to 12 months or something, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, sometimes our clients surprise us with how well they do, but just want to get him on here to talk about his process and how he was able to do that, because I know there are a lot of you out there who are maybe in a similar boat. Maybe you missed the opportunity to, get into banking or get into buy stuff when you're out of college. And then like, now you're wondering like, hey, is it still possible to do it? Right. So anyway, Bruce, first of all, good to have you here, but if you can maybe start off by just giving us a little bit about your background, kind of like, who are you? Where'd you go to school? What are you doing currently? And then like, we can kind of start your story from there.
Yeah. So I went to school at like probably the most non-target school you could possibly think of. Played D3 basketball, and just through connections. Currently, I'm working at S&P Global, where I work on our debt capital markets and bond new issuances. And it's not a technical role. It's more of client services and client facing as much as you can during COVID. And like I said, I mean, this process happened pretty quick. We said 3 weeks. I remember the first conversation, Sam, you and I had. You were like, best advice you gave me was you got to just be prepared because you never know, especially full time. And I remember like, all these people, I was telling people, I was like, I'm taking the program, this and that. And they're like, what? Like, you're out of your mind. There's, why don't you just do it yourself? And I was like, okay, like, it's crazy till it works. And I mean, my case is definitely, special. 3 weeks in, I get a private equity offer, a real estate private equity offer. And we're sitting here and we're just like laughing about it. So,
yeah, that's crazy, man. There's so many things to unpack there in what you just said, but first thing you said is you went to a school, like the most non-target school I can think of. I had actually, for context, we've worked with students from probably over 100 different schools.
Yep. And
so at this point, I feel like I've heard of most of the schools out there, even some that maybe a lot of people have never heard of. But your school, I've literally never heard of. Like,
yeah.
You are the first person I've ever met from your school.
Yeah.
How many people did you guys have on campus? Is it like, how small of a school is it?
Man, I'll probably say like 500. We're like a large high school. I think that's
I mean, I never met anyone from there.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. I mean, we're right down the street from Villanova. It's just, we play in a really competitive, Division III league. It's just like we're overshadowed by like, UPenn, you got Temple there, Drexel, you got all these big schools, and then we're right in the middle.
All those schools I've worked with and I've had students from, but can we tell people where your school is, by the way? People are probably wondering like, what school is
it? So I went to Ursinus College. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I played in a league where we played against Johns Hopkins University, Swarthmore, if you're familiar with the area, another good academic school. It's just the size of the school, and then we don't place anybody in IB. Right. So it's just one of those things that when people watch this, I was just in your shoes. Like, there was no way, the chips were stacked against me. Kind of on my own, trying to break into the industry. I was like everybody else, just blindly applying on LinkedIn. Talked to the 1 or 2 alumni that I saw that like dealt with it. So just aimlessly just throwing my application in.
Yeah. So you went there primarily to play basketball.
Yeah.
Right. And then you realized at some point in college that you wanted to do investment banking. Is that okay? And was that junior
So
year or sophomore year or?
yeah, I would probably say junior year. I would say junior year, junior fall. I was like, you know what, like IB might be, something. And once I get done with basketball, something, ultra competitive. I'm a competitor to my core, and I was like, okay. And just hearing it from like friends that went to other schools and played basketball elsewhere that were also trying to break in the industry, I was just like, you know what, this is somewhere that I feel like an environment I can thrive in. Unfortunately, COVID happened, junior year, lost my internship. So I had no internship,
Hmm,
had no work experience besides, working on campus. And,
okay.
the most impressive thing I had was, working for my school's endowment fund and then working at a smoothie bar on campus. So, so my resume, looked absurdly light trying to, apply to these bulge bracket banks like, Goldman, JP Morgan. And,
Yeah.
after, getting some more insight from the program, I was just like, yeah, yeah, I was doing it completely wrong.
Hmm, yeah. Okay. All right. So basically, you went to a school that never sends anyone there. There's like 500 people there. You don't really have anyone around you that's trying to do the same things that you are. You don't have any resources, any guidance. You just kind of like try to stumble through it on your own. You
Yeah.
didn't really have relevant experience. COVID happened. So just like a lot of things working against you, basically. Um, and so ultimately you didn't get in. Then like you graduated in 2021,
Yep.
right? So it's been almost a year since you graduated. How did you end up at S&P Global? Like, and like, why
Yeah,
did you
so
take that?
it just goes back to networking. I knew, senior spring, I didn't have anywhere. I was like, okay, I'll literally take anywhere. And just networking. And I was, absolutely blessed to get hired by a company called IHS Market, who was acquired by S&P.
Hmm,
So it was like one of those things. It was like the perfect storm, but the caveat was I had to move from Philly to Boulder, Colorado, which I'm at now.
yeah,
So it was like you could have a great job, great company,
yeah,
um, but you have to move across the country. And I was like, I have no other option. I was like, absolutely. I was like, just
yeah,
okay, like I'm willing to do that. I know 95% of my friends, you know, they're just they love Philly and they want to stay in that area. And I know, all of them. I've offered them. I'm like, hey, you guys trying to hire for my team. It's like, hey, you guys want to come out here? Everybody declined it. But yeah, I took that chance. And that was really my first hands-on experience with markets. And that's when I was like, you know, now that I have some experience on my belt, I was like, okay, now I better understand just after working with syndicate desk, what I do for my job. I was like, I, have a better understanding of what they do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So then that kind of like got your wheels turning again about, hey, maybe I would take another crack at breaking
yeah.
into thinking. Okay. Um, can we give people some context on like the nature of your role at S&P Global? Because I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people in your situation, like they're graduated and they're working, in something that's not banking, but maybe it's like tangential to
Yeah.
banking, right? But they're wondering like, do I have enough relevant experience to be able to make this type of jump?
Mhm.
So like, can you talk to them about kind of like your day to day and like what were you doing exactly? Like, because you weren't like building financial models
No,
or doing any of that, right? Like,
no.
so what exactly is your role?
So my day to day, I spoke earlier about bond new issuances. So I work with, global debt markets. Anytime there's a new offering, let's just say, for example, Amazon, they had a huge deal. My job is through our platforms, we help streamline kind of the book building process, which is, all these banks come together, they collaborate on a deal and they all put orders in. Our platforms allow these banks to communicate. And while that's going on, I play a support role. So if a lead bank on the deal that's, in charge of the whole deal, if they have any issues with our platform, that's where I'll step in. I'll communicate with them. If they need to jump on a call, a kid that just graduated of college on a Zoom call with like, the MD of like so and so bank. And we, like I said, it's global. So I take over, EMEA, which would be, Europe. New York, starts kicking off in the morning right when I wake up, and then I would hand it off right when Asia Pacific region gets on. So like Sam was saying, I'm not, building models. I'm not doing anything technical. It's just relationship and client stuff. I'm just, talking to people. I'm on calls.
Yeah. You're like the account manager, and
Yeah,
you're like basically supporting your clients and helping them out with like troubleshooting whatever they need help with, basically.
yeah, correct.
Okay, got it. So like you have like client facing responsibilities, and you have like exposure to these deals, but like you're not like really on like the deal side, basically.
Yeah, not really on the deal side. It's more of just like, the deal's already put together. I'm at the end when, investors are actually putting in orders. So, a lot that I was thinking about was, trying to get an IB. I was like, okay, after being on the support side and understanding what happens like at the final bit, I was
Yeah.
thinking, might as well take another crack at it if, I better understand that deal process and how that goes. Yeah, the rest writes itself.
And you were still working pretty crazy hours, right?
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, it is not a regular like 9 to 5. I probably wake up here in Boulder. I mean, when markets open in New York, I'm up and I'm working. So, I mean, I'm up by 5:30, working, actually doing work, 6:45, 7. And then depending on what's going on, I get done. I'm supposed to get done at like 6. But I could have something happening with our platforms and I could be on till like 8. And on top of that, working another job on the weekends. I work 2 security shifts on Saturday and Sundays for 12 hours each, and then doing it all over again. So, but yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm already doing the hours. Yeah, maybe it's not, maybe it's not like as like financial modeling and like, mental power of a security job, but it's like, if I'm already doing the hours, might as well take a crack at it.
Right. And the two security shifts on the weekend, that's just like a part-time job on the side to like make more money, basically.
Yeah, just to make more money, just because of student loans. So, I mean, that type of grind though, that like, day to day, I'm waking up every morning and doing that, really helped me transition to thinking about IB and wanting to do it the right way. And that's, how I kind of landed on Wall Street Mastermind. And it's so funny because one of my good friends from high school was in the program.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, Alex. So I talked to Alex and I was like, hey man, like you just want to like give me the ins and outs about this. And him, after the conversation we had, I was like, okay, like I really got to, think seriously about it. I was sold after I talked to Alex. I was like, if you got Alex sold into this, absolutely. And the way he was, I think the thing that attracted me so heavily to want to do it, I'm a structure guy, I'm a schedule guy. And something that he brought up was, it's a great opportunity for like people that are in college, even out of college. Like everybody has an hour a day, no matter who it is, just to like sit down, do the work. And at the same time, he was talking about the support system, and that couldn't be, any true. Before, we were talking about, like if I have questions, they're already answered. Sam's already thinking ahead. He already knows what you're going to ask. And if they're not answered, there's hours that you can, jump on a call and with a bunch of other people in the program and speak. And even you just send a message and, you're super responsive. I don't know how you do it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I do it by working a lot.
yeah. But like I said, I mean, it's just that type of structure that I saw in the other programs that were like, yeah, like, you're going to do this program, but like, we're just going to send you some slides and that's it. Like, that's, there's not really any guidance. It's just like, it's still, you're just shooting in the dark at that point.
Right. I mean, there's something here too, because I feel like, first of all, if I did the math right, it sounds like you were already working maybe 70 to 90 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
Between your 2 jobs. So you were like pretty much doing banker hours. You were getting paid way less, obviously.
Yeah.
we don't have to say how much, but like, obviously if you're working a 24-hour shift on the weekend to make extra money, like nobody does that just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that you would be like, well, why am I doing this and making this type of money? But the other thing that I thought was really interesting that you talked about was like, when you were thinking about joining the program, you know, like obviously our program is a significant investment for you, right? Especially making the money that you were making.
Yep.
You also have student loans, like you said, and then you probably talked to some friends, and I mean, not Alex, but like other people who told you like you're crazy for doing this.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you're not the only person that has gotten that sort of feedback from people around them, because you know most people just aren't familiar with a program like this and what it can do, right? Because they've never done it before and they don't know anyone else has done it. So like, I want to kind of explore your mindset a little bit of like, why didn't you listen to the people around you? Because I feel like a lot of people if they were in your shoes and all the people around them, well, one, they don't have a lot of money. Two, people around them are telling them they're crazy for doing this and you can just do it on your own. Like, why did you go against that? And like, you know, most people I think would just be like, oh yeah, you're right, I'll just do this on my own, right?
Yeah. So the one thing, you know, what really clicked for me was I really looked, like, no offense to my friends, but I really looked at who were telling me that this is a terrible idea, right? And of course, it's none of the people that I want to trade places with. So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm getting advice from people that I don't want to be in their shoes. And it was one of those things that, like, you know, you're going to have people, oh my gosh, you're crazy, this and that, you're doing this, X, Y, and Z. But if I would have listened to those people, you know, I would have been like, oh no, okay, yeah, you're right. But I would have been at the same exact place as they are. Like they're not ahead of me by any standards or means. And at the same time, it's, you know, when you start listening to those voices, like, and something that came to my head was, you know, even though you're saying this, like, you don't have to do the work that I'm doing. At the end of the day, I have to do the work. I get paid for what I work for.
Yeah.
And my decisions directly impact my future.
Yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things that, like, if you know you're going to crumble when somebody tells you like you can't do something, then honestly, you're not cut out for it. Right.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, the industry is not, it's super cutthroat.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that, you know, you really have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what, I want more for me and I want more for my family. That's, at the end of the day, something you talk about a lot is your why, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a great story. I just think that Wall Street Mastermind is going to help you extract everything out of your story to give you the best chance to be the best candidate. And that's, you know, really happened to me.
Yeah, man, that's I think that's pretty profound, which is most people, they just obviously like you're getting a lot of opinions from the people around you, but you hit the nail on the head, which is like not all opinions should be like equal or like have equal weighting when it comes to like whether you take it into consideration, because obviously then you also talk to Alex, who's a childhood friend, and he's obviously doing really, really well. And, you know, in a sense, he is like he's actually where you want to be, right? Or where you want to go. And so like people are always, whatever advice people are giving, I don't think people like do it maliciously, but I think that when people give you advice, they're just sharing with you their worldview. Like that's through their lens, and it's through all the past experiences that they've had that shapes their point of view. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to your point, like I always tell people, like your inputs determine your outputs, and like your decision making is going to kind of determine like whatever outcome you get. Right. And whatever those people have accomplished, like, you know, I don't know who these people are, but obviously they got to where they are. And that's not really where you would go. But I think that's really cool that you actually, I guess if I were to really sum it up, it's just like, it's critical thinking skills where like, sure, you hear different people's opinions, but then at the end of the day, because it is your career, ultimately, like you have to have your own opinion, and you have to be able to think critically and be like, is this like valid or is this valid? And then like make the decision that you think is best for you. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. I mean, so, okay. So, I mean, you came in this program. Um, I mean, like I said, it's really only been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, talk to us, like, how did this job opportunity come about? And then also like, how were you able to, like, what was the interview process like?
Mhm.
And then like, how were you able to kind of like get ready in such a short amount of time?
Yeah. Yeah, like Sam was saying, I mean, 3 weeks is not a lot of time. 21 days. But what helped me was, like I was saying, the material, that you're gonna go over and that Sam goes over. Um, he really gets down to the root of what you need, like how to craft, yourself to be the best candidate that you can possibly be, the best you. We want to put your best foot forward. Um, and this came about. I mean, I was networking, and especially the advice that you were giving. One, just opened my eyes for I really needed to look at my network. Don't think I was leveraging my network as much as I should have. But
Mm.
after Wall Street Mastermind material, I was like, wow, like okay, that's how things get done, right? Through networking, friends of friends, and you just have to be absolutely like fearless. And that's what I went into it about. I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat, breathe, and sleep Wall Street Mastermind and the material, and like just be completely 100% committed.
Oh, you're
So
working like, you're working a lot already.
yeah,
When are you finding time to like do all this Wall Street Mastermind? So I'm actually curious.
yeah. So I mean, and this probably speaks more to the people that are working full time too right now. Is that like I said, anybody that tells themselves that they don't have an hour a day is completely lying. I mean, if I'm like sneaking off like during like my security job just to go like, let me go, do a few modules, you know what I mean? And then come back to my shift. Before I'm at lunch, I just bring my laptop. It's right there in front of me. I just go outside, hotspot, do a few modules here and there.
Wow.
Um, and then also, late nights, early mornings.
Dude,
If
I should have told you, you could watch the modules on the mobile.
I didn't know that. So I just brought my laptop. I got a big 2012 Apple laptop that I'm just carrying around.
Wow.
Um, but it's like, it's one of those things that, if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. The amount of time people spend on their phone, I mean, you go over it. It's like, I challenge everybody that's especially working full time, track what you do hour by hour through a whole day for a week, and you'll see how much time you're wasting. And that's exactly what the first week I tracked everything that I did from when I woke up to I went to bed. And I figured out, I was like, okay, I'm wasting a solid like 5, 6 hours a day when, out of those 6 hours, I can easily 1 hour
Yeah.
do a module or do the X, Y, and Z, or even ask questions or look at material. Um, and like I said, if it's important to you, you'll make time.
Yeah.
And when leading up to the interview process, the way that, I got prepared so fast, and I'm glad, is that, your advice, right, is, if you, because it was so quick, I need to work on the behavioral stuff and fortify that. You're right. And then technical stuff at the same time. There's a lot of technical stuff that, I didn't know, especially real estate. I had no idea anything about real estate. But as long as I could show, I could speak and talk my way out of a, three statement and understand what's going on in the P&L statement. And then how, and look up some things on the side to be like, okay, what is Sam teaching me, and how can I connect that thing to what they're doing, and how can I add value, right? And then at the same time, behavioral stuff that you were teaching us, show that I have that mindset, and show a lot of it's just showing that you can handle that grind, right? What sucks is that, especially a lot of people that just try to blindly go into it, like they don't understand what people are looking for. I think you do, your colleagues do a brilliant job of laying it out. Um, and especially someone like me that's working full time, I don't have time. I don't have extra time, you
Right.
know, to try to search all these things. Yeah, people are like, yo, just Google it or YouTube it. Okay, but like everybody everywhere is saying like 10 different things.
Yeah.
right? And if especially I'm working full time, working 7 days a week. I don't have time to just Google it and then, figure it out for myself, right? And um, my whole motto was, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like if it's a proven system, you speak monthly about, X, Y, and Z has got into it, or you talk about your students, and it's real data. It's like real data. And once you're actually in the program, like you actually see like, wow, this community, the people that are actually taking advantage of it are getting the most out of it. They're the ones that are going to be successful, and not only, they're the ones that give back too, right? And it's one of those things that, like, I saw people that have already graduated the program, already in IB, coming back answering questions, and I was like, wow, like these are people that are already in it, right? And someone like me, like I said, that's working full time, I don't have to search for the answers. Like they're the ones, they have the answers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what really helped me leading out to that, like that interview process.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the point on people giving back, I think is huge. I was just like scrolling through our Slack channel, even just today, and I saw like 4 different new entries of people just like submitting interview questions that they got from, because right now it's recruiting season, everyone's going
Yep.
through interviews, but people are just like, they go to an interview, they come back immediately, they submit all the questions that they got into like our centralized database, and then like this way, like other people who might have interviews with these same places in the future, they now know like what questions to expect. Like that's one way. And then the other way is like what you're talking about, which is like people like Daniel and Jaime and other people that are already working in banking, and they're constantly in there like answering these technical questions,
Yeah.
doing my job for me basically. They get to it before I can even get to it, and I look at it like, oh, this is a great
Yeah.
answer, and I don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
But it's really a beautiful thing, because I think like everyone is like winning together, right? And
Absolutely.
it just feels great, because usually I feel like recruiting is such a cutthroat thing.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just kind of looking out for themselves, and nobody wants to help anyone, because if they help you, then it makes it harder for them. And just people don't really have that kind of scarcity mindset inside of
Yeah.
Wall Street Mastermind, which is amazing, right? I guess on the interview prep side of things, like you talked about having to learn behaviorals, having to learn technicals in a very short amount of time. Like, how many hours would you say you had to spend on prepping in total from the time you got the interview to, getting the offer? Like, how much time did you have to put into it?
Yeah. So, be totally honest, I once I found out I had the interview, immediately took the day off. And I
Smart.
spent, yeah, immediately I was like, what, I need to take the interview day off, but I need to spend at least 3 solid days where all I am doing is, focusing on the modules. And not only that, giving myself time to digest the information, because a lot of the people, especially, people can feel this, that have graduated. I mean, you stare at a textbook for 4 years. You have really no real world application to it. And then when you try to speak to somebody and have a, intelligent conversation about, the 3 statements and what's going on, you just sound like a robot. And at the end of the day, these are people that are recruiting you, and they want to be able to sit at a desk with you for 80 hours a week. You know what I mean? Grinding, but they don't want a robot just spitting out numbers. You actually have to, think your way around it and really understand and digest it. So, I took the day off, and it was like literally it was like 3 or 4 days that it was, especially my day off. I think I spent a solid, and I try to break it up. It was like 3 hours in the morning, give myself a break, 3 hours, between lunch, and then 3 hours at night. But that last hour was making sure that I went back on my notes, I reread them, I understood what I was doing, shooting you questions, really understanding like what should I be focusing on in this short amount of time. And like I said, Sam's super responsive. And if it's not going to be you, it's going to be somebody in the program that's ready and available to help, and they're willing to help.
Right.
And I mean, I can't, I don't want to like, keep beating a dead horse, but I mean, the support system is ridiculous. Especially someone like me that, I'm really networking,
Yeah.
trying to build something when I don't really have, people in my network that are in banking, or a lot of them in banking. like just Wall Street Mastermind just like exponentially grew my network to just help me with those, questions I was struggling with.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you probably spent about 30 plus, 3 to 4 days of about 9 hours each, like 30 plus hours.
Yep.
Right. And that's like, that sounds about right, actually, for like how much time it takes to learn all the behavioral and technicals. If you like really condense everything down, you don't have to like look for anything, and everything's in one place, and you just like go through it in one go. I think like that's probably as efficient as it gets.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I feel like, I can understand, some people that may be nervous about the content, right? Like some people, that might not be the case. You might struggle on the technicals. You might have to go back and watch it a few times. But like we said, the first, chat that we had was, you just want to be ready, because the job market for IB and just PE, I guess, is hot right now. Like people are looking for people like you. That if you're watching, there are people who are looking for people like you. You just have to be ready for the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say right now, at least as of the time of this recording, which is April 2022, it's a really favorable job market for people who are trying to lateral in, because all these firms, I mean, we were talking about before we came on camera how they're like very eager for you to start, and you have to move from Colorado back to Philly within like the month, and even then they're giving you work before you even start already, right? But like that's how much work people have right now. That's how much deal flow it is, and people are just like drowning at work. They're like underwater. This is why all the banks are like raising their pay, and they're trying to like retain people, right? And in this type of market environment, like they're gonna be a bit more flexible with their hiring criteria. Like whereas like maybe in tighter job markets, where like in like when job markets aren't as good, they might be stricter and say, hey, you have to have investment banking experience already at a smaller bank before you can, lateral in, right? Versus now, like they're willing to hire people who don't really have any investment banking experience, and like you certainly didn't, right? But you still got the job, and I mean, this was your first interview, right?
Yeah. This was my first interview. And like I said, the process happened amazingly quick. But like I said, the information was there. The questions that I had were already answered in the modules. All I had to do was step back after taking in the information, and just how do I build my story around what Sam's teaching me, and like that I think was the key to like my success.
Yeah. Was your interview pretty technical?
No, it wasn't. I will say I did have an Excel test that could be daunting for somebody that hasn't been around Excel a lot. But again, you brilliantly go over a lot of the things that you have to do. Any questions that I had that I maybe forgot from like stuff in school, you've already answered. So that prep already before the interview, I was like, I felt comfortable enough to be like, okay, if I didn't know it, I knew how to do it in other ways. And I think that's what helped me do the technical stuff. A large part of my, a really big part of my interview process was behavioral stuff. Because again, these people are working long hours. Hiring somebody that's less qualified is a huge risk to them. They have to train you. They have to, literally mold you to be, what they want you to be. So I think the behavioral side and all the like information that you had there, and the good questions that you had already up front, you got all the list of interview questions already. I think that's what geared me and helped me, get past that.
Yeah. Did you have to like during the interview, was there like the elephant in the room, which is like you're not really like the prototypical, candidate that they look for, right? So like did you ever have to like address that in any way, or kind of like, show that, hey, even though I'm not the prototypical candidate, like this is why I'm good for the job? Because I'm sure you had to beat out some other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the first thing that was addressed actually. Because it was one of those things that, like Sam was saying, you're in this process, super cutthroat. You have all these people, especially PE, you have all these people that already have experience looking at the job, other candidates. And the problem that I realized that I had was, I felt like I had, a great story to tell, and a great why. I just didn't know how to really say it. Um, I've lived, I feel like an old man. I've lived like 3 lives over, um, you know, um, but it was through the, modules and through, your trainings and the office hours that I was like, okay, let's really key into like why and what. So the why would be like, why are they asking me this? And then what in my story really drills in, what they're looking for. And I think that's what really separated me from the other people.
Yeah. I mean, look, honestly, even just from doing this interview with you right now and from some of the answers and you talking about your process, like, I think it's very apparent when someone talks to you, just what type of person you're. Like, you're like extremely hardworking. You're not afraid of working hard, and you're like very resourceful, and you're just like, you utilize like every little bit of time that you have, and you just like, those are all qualities that I think these firms really look for, right? And as long as that shines too, like, for someone like you that has these qualities, like a lot of the other stuff, even like the experience that you don't have, and maybe the technical knowledge that's, where you're just trying to learn it, but maybe you're not quite as advanced as where they would normally want you to be. Like, all those things can be easily learned,
Yeah.
especially for someone like you who has the drive and is motivated enough to do what it takes, right? So I don't know. I didn't talk to the people that hired you, but I'm guessing that they probably saw the same thing that I'm seeing now, right? Which is really great. Um, so I guess we kind of already touched on this, but what was the outcome in the end, and like what are you going to be doing, just in case like people missed it?
Yeah. So I'll be working for a real estate private equity fund in Philly. I'll be an acquisitions analyst and, doing, really the groundwork, especially real estate PE. Our team is literally the heart and soul of the company. It's a huge company. They have different arms, especially like everything from, grounds workers to people managing the building. So our team is literally like everything comes to a halt unless our team is working. So you know, it was super critical for, the firm that hired me to find somebody that fit the mold, right? Especially like, since it's such a key, team, they didn't want to hire some like Joe Schmo that's going to like tap out after working a hard, 80 hours or 90 hours, whatever it took. So but yeah, I'll be doing that. Like I said, I have so much to learn. I'm super excited to, keep on learning.
Yeah,
And that's just the attitude that I'm taking forward.
for sure, for sure. That's awesome, man. I mean, I'm super happy for you. Um, like I said, you exceeded even my expectations. I think I kind of knew you were a hard worker, but I didn't quite realize how hard of a worker you were. So I love it when my clients outperform even my expectations, and I feel like I had pretty high expectations. So that's amazing, dude. And I think this is a really great story, and I think it'll inspire just a lot of people that maybe have doubts about whether something like this is even possible. And
Yeah.
I guess, like, on that note, my final question for you is, now that you're on the other side, do you have like maybe one piece of advice that maybe someone else gave it to you, or whatever, you picked it up along the way, or just figured it out on your own, but one piece of advice that you think would be really helpful for people who are maybe in well, not in your shoes anymore, but
Mhm.
the same boat you were in recently, where it's like, hey, they're recently graduated, maybe they don't necessarily have like the pedigree, right? And then like
Yeah.
they don't and they're working in something that's sort of tangential to banking, but not really, not that relevant. Like, and they're trying to break in, or they're hoping they can break in, then they want to better their career. Like, what's something that you would want to tell those people, or what do you think they should know?
Um, I'd probably say something they should know, especially if you're watching this now, you just like, you hear my story, you're working somewhere. Um, you know, I was like a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of confidence heading into this. Something that helped me was, build your confidence through work. If you know how much time you actually like put in to this, you'll have so much confidence heading into that conversation, heading into those interviews, even though it'd be, you'll still have, butterflies trying to go in because, it's your first, second, third interview, right? It's one of those things, it's reps, it's mental reps. Um, you know, yeah, you might be weak in some certain areas, but this is an opportunity for you to grow. You probably spend more time than you'll do, in an IB working a job that you hate, like currently, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna work those hours and you're gonna do that, might as well push yourself and, try to get into the top tier of what you want to do. I feel like a lot of people, they sit there and they're just satisfied. They're just like content. And if you're not one of those people, it's really up to you to be like, okay, I'm gonna really invest in myself. And that's one of the biggest things is like you need to choose to invest in yourself, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what people say, regardless of what your parents say. My dad called me crazy, word for word. He was like, "You're crazy." And I called him yesterday, and he was just like, "That hands down was the best investment you made for yourself," word for word.
He's
Um, yeah, yeah. My dad, he called me. He was like, "I can't wait to call. I can't wait till we have this conversation. Like, you made a huge mistake." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And then now I call him like, "Hey, I got a private equity job on the East Coast, and I'm gonna have to drive across country." He's like speechless. He's like, "Whoa, like that's intense."
when you said people were telling you you're crazy for doing it, I didn't even realize it was your dad. And then like that's even crazier to me
Yeah.
because crazier as in like it's even more incredible to me that you made the decision that you made because I think again going back to the point about getting opinion from people around us and um I think like our parents are some of the people that we trust the most. They're
Yeah.
our parents, like they love us. Your parents love you, I'm sure, and like they want what's best for us,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't always mean they're right.
Yep.
Doesn't mean always mean their opinion is right. But I think that we see this with a lot of students who are like, we're just so conditioned to just listen to whatever our parents say. Like that's what good kids do, right? Um, but a lot of the times, like honestly, most parents just don't know what it takes to break into this industry because they've never worked in this industry,
Mhm.
right? And most parents, like whatever job they got, it wasn't as hard as getting into banking or PE or anything like that. But the fact that you went against what your dad said and you proved him wrong, and then he came around and said, "Wow," he went from calling you crazy to saying this is one of the best investments you've ever made. I mean, that's amazing, and it's funny that you say that because Alex's dad
Yeah.
does the exact same thing to him.
Yeah. And that's what Alex and I were talking about. He was just like, because I know Alex's dad too. I know how he is.
Yeah.
Just off the, few interactions that I've had with him. And he just like my dad, like he's old world, right? My dad, retired military. My mom, she immigrated from the Philippines, like heavily Catholic. So like they're old world. So like they don't really understand the technology and everything. And they're like, what? Like somebody over a camera is going to tell you how to get another job? I was like, that's just not what it is at all. But I think my first thing my mom asked was like, if Sam had a PhD, which was hilarious. I was just like, no, like he's not like, he's a teacher, but he's like not a professor. She's like used to the typical classroom.
I guess
So
I have a PhD in investment banking.
yeah, I mean, like I said, and it's one of those things that, you really have to look in the mirror and understand, like you were saying earlier, it's not that they're like coming from, a hurtful place, right? It's just they don't understand the required work,
Yeah, they
right?
don't know what they don't know. Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know. It's just, and what really clicked in my head, was, during our first call. Meanwhile, during our first call, I was dealing with a major issue, but I was like listening at the same time. But something you said and something that stood out to me, right, was, you're going to get out of this what you put in. You know, There's people that are going to, of course, there's going to be people that come to the program and everybody's seen them in class, right? They're watching film during class or they're doing X, Y, and Z. They're not really, taking the most out of it. If you take the most out of it, you
Yeah.
know, and you're just increasing your chances, right? You don't want to eliminate yourself by doing all these things, that are going to hinder you from learning and really understanding what's going on. So, like I said, just understanding the required work, understanding, that the people that are giving you the advice, they're fearful too, right? They're just saying it out of fear because like they're thinking, well, what if doesn't like, happen for you? For myself, I made it a point that I was going to get a banking job, regardless of what it is and regardless of where it was, regardless of what I do. Right. And I made that that was like the first thing I thought about. It was like day and night that I was thinking about this. I was like, it was so funny. I was like talking to myself, like asking technical questions, like going inside and out, like how does this change the three statements if X, Y, and Z happen? And I looked like a crazy person, absolutely. But it's crazy until it works. And I think, you can probably talk on that, like, the students that you've had.
No, I mean, it sounds a little bit woo woo, but you kind of like just willed it into reality almost, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, what's that saying? It says, where focus goes, energy flows or something like, but basically the point is, I don't think I quoted that correctly, but basically it's just like, if your mind is so set on making something happen, like the universe works in mysterious ways, but they will like somehow help you make that happen. Of course, like you're the one that's like doing the work, right? Like you say, you're thinking about all the time, you're, eat, breathe, and live, just this one goal. And you have like this singular focus on making it happen. And someone's like, how can it not happen? Right.
Yeah.
So, man, that's amazing. I enjoyed this conversation immensely. I think it's just like my favorite client interviews are always like, the biggest underdogs that overcome like the most craziest odds that people probably are like, no way, right? And honestly, it's client interviews like this that like sometimes people tell me that like, oh, my client interviews must be fake.
Yeah.
Like Bruce must be a paid actor because there's just like no way any of this is real. And it's just like, it's just so hilarious to me, like where they think I can go find these extremely realistic actors to tell these amazing stories that like, even if I wanted to make this up, I couldn't make this up. Right. So like, anyway, I'm super happy for you, man. This has been just so enjoyable for me. So thank you for sharing that with both me and everyone else. I think for those of you who are still, listening or watching this, like, if you find yourself right now in a similar situation, maybe you're like, a couple years out, one or 2 years out of school, maybe like you knew you wanted to do banking or go to the buy side, and you just, for whatever reason, circumstances worked against you and you couldn't get in. But you haven't really given up on that dream, and you're not sure if, that ship has sailed, and you're wondering if you can still get in. I don't know if the ship has sailed because I don't know your situation. It depends. Like every single person is different, but I think you owe it to yourself to at least explore the possibility, right? And the first step to doing that would be to just like book a call with our team and just talk to us. Tell us about your situation. What are you currently doing? What do you feel like you need help with? What are you stuck on? And like, what are your goals? And let's just talk about it. And maybe we can help you get there, and maybe we can't, right? And if we can, obviously, like, happy to talk to you about what we will have to do to make that happen. Because again, everyone's different, but like, if we don't think it's possible, like, we'll just tell you that, like, we'll just tell like, hey, like, or at a minimum, we'll give you advice on like what we think you should do to maybe get a little bit closer to your goals, right? Regardless of whether you work with us or not. So that's what I would encourage you guys to do. If you're currently in that situation, if you are interested in doing that, you can go and book a call with us at www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street is abbreviated to ST. So it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And we'd be happy to talk to you and just help you out in any way that we can. All right. And who knows, maybe, just maybe you can have a similar story like Bruce has had here. So with that said, Bruce, I know we're a little bit over time. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your workday to talk to us. And even though I know you're about to leave this job, but still, regardless. Yeah, just huge congrats again. It was like, I know it hasn't been that long, but
Yeah.
I'm honored to have been able to just give you a little bit of help along the way. But obviously, you did all the heavy lifting. So all the credit goes to you, man. But
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, I don't think, I don't think I would have reached and pushed myself towards that goal if it hadn't been for a Wall Street Mastermind. And also, I'll say a second, I am definitely not getting paid for this interview. I am definitely not. We actually had to reschedule. Yeah, I mean, people are going to see the comments. They're going to read, Wall Street Oasis. And, my one thing about those is, same thing that I thought, like, if you're a banker, who has time to comment and watch this video? And truly, if you are actually a banker, I want to know, what time do you have to really watch these videos and comment bad things? Like, that's the only question I would be asking myself. And it just make it make sense.
Yeah, no bankers are watching. They got better things to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They gotta go home and hang out with their girlfriend or their
Yeah.
wives or kids, or after their 80-hour work weeks. Nobody really cares that much about it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man.
But no, I appreciate that, man. But yeah, anyway, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. If you guys want to chat, feel free to reach out. We look forward to talking to you, and we'll be back with more of these for you guys in the near future. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon.